Hello, everybody. We're back live again for another weekend of fun. I assure you we will have fun. But at the top, I have to say thank you for certain people because they have understood what we were trying to do and they have celebrated and walked the journey with us as we've done this. And for those new, and welcome, just to clarify and level set, 'cause I think it's important. I haven't done so in a while, and perhaps I need to do this on the top of every show, and I will do better about that. I am not a YouTuber. That's not what I am. I'm a podcast, more specifically, podcast for the people, found at cryptotalkradio.net. And because I'm not a YouTuber, I want to make sure it's understood that my presence on YouTube is simply an extension of the podcast. It is a separate show underneath the brand Crypto Talk Radio. And it is not intended to entertain like other YouTubers. It is intended to inform and be a different source of information. And we always caveat, you should do your own research, most importantly, but more critically, you should look at other YouTube channels and get differing opinions. What I don't think you should do, in my opinion, is take someone's channel on its face as credible simply because of their follower count alone. I'm not saying follower counts don't matter. I'm saying it's not about follower counts alone. I had an interesting back and forth with certain diehards in the cult DAO community. And this caused me to start really questioning, these people are really kind of in a bubble. They're in a bubble, and most in crypto are in bubbles. So I'm not singling them out at all, but their bubble is bad. So the messaging from them is always, around follower counts or sub counts or something that doesn't really matter. And I want to clarify the reason that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because if you think about it, if you have somebody that has, let's say, 20,000 followers, 20,000 subscribers, and that person steers you to a rug pull, is that person more credible than somebody that has, say, 1,000 followers who does not steer you to a rug pull? In other words, credibility is about messaging. Credibility is about credibility. What is the credibility of what you're saying to somebody? And what's the intent? What's the motivation behind what you're doing? Are you doing it just to pump projects? Well, if all you care about is that person has 20,000 followers, by all means, you should listen to those channels. Just be aware. Chances are, if you've been ripped off by a crypto, and many of us have, it probably came from one of those people because they know that you're gullible, falling for numbers that don't really matter. They know that you're not going to listen to the messaging that they say. And then I had a counter on this. There was a guy, and he covered Cult DAO, and he straight said it's a, quote, rug pull scam. I listened to his video. He's an idiot. His coverage is garbage. All he said was they're not doxxed. So it's a scam because they're not doxxed. That's a fallacy. If you understand the whole point behind it, their whole point was not to have any individual in front of it. That's why they wear masks, looking like outlaw mud show freaks at these different conventions. That's part of their marketing. So I understand that. That's why I don't think it matters. And then additionally, doxing doesn't prove that somebody's not going to rip you off, as we learned from the car salesman on Seifu, car salesman 2.0 on LockPay, car salesman 3.0 on SafeJet, and so on. Being doxed does not absolve you of the risk that that person's going to rip you off and take your freaking money. They can rip you off and take your freaking money all they care to. Doxing doesn't solve the problem. So it's a fallacy to say that because somebody's not doxed, it guarantees it's a scam. In the videos we did, we've never called that project a scam or a rug pull or anything that we said marketing sucks. Here's where I think people lost sight of the messaging. If you go to Believes Crypto, and I do recommend you do so, his channel on YouTube, he recently did a video on Cult DAO, and he said basically what I've tied to my messaging today and in the past. Cult DAO has underperformed compared to the Ethereum that it's paired to in its liquidity pool. This is unusual. This is not normal. This is very strange. It's not normal that you would have a token that is tied to a pumping liquidity token, and despite the pumps, it's actually crapping still. Now, many of them are doing so. Libero, as an example, I had a commenter come back and say, well, Libera is up, Libera is up, Libera is not up because Libero is not up, and Libera is just wrapped Libero. So if we see that these pumps are happening with BNB, that's happening. It's back up to close to $300 a token. It got as low as 220, if I recall. Ethereum, It got as low as 980. It's back up to about 1600 level, 1700 level as of current. And we see that they're pumping to this significant degree. And yet the core token is not, the backing token, right, is not going up with it. Well, what does that mean? That means that whatever that token project was trying to do ain't working anymore. And it's no longer enticing people to buy in. More importantly, it's not enticing people to stay in. As I tied all this together, it got me thinking, people may not understand. We are in a troubling time right now. Sentiment is harmed. The scams have harmed sentiment. The regulatory chatter has caused sentiment harm. Voyager, Celsius, stable gains, Terra, all the bans of cryptocurrency that we start seeing chatter about, the lockdowns and crackdowns on mining, the semiconductor crisis, like all these things are variables that were not in play in 2021 and prior. And so it's worse because we have lost people's confidence to buy into this stuff. So if we accept what I'm saying to be the truth, which is it's a different world, all I've ever said was you got to be unique and different about how you entice those people. And you got to be creative about how you keep those people. And if you don't, you're not going to succeed long-term. You're going to struggle. Unfortunately, in cryptocurrency, because of hopium, we get to this world where people are simply going off these short pumps as a yay, which that's not me. I won't do it because I'm not impressed by it, because I've seen crappier projects than those succeed where this one hasn't. Then the excuse is, well, we're still early, which is what I said. Not enough time has passed for us to understand where you're going to go. All I've ever said is right now, today, your marketing is crap. Your messaging is crap. Anybody who's coming from the liberal ecosystem would have heard me straight tell them their website sucks. It still sucks. They've redesigned them. It's a little bit more intuitive, but it doesn't solve the underlying problem, which is getting people outside the bubble to understand exactly how to get in, how to stay in, and what they're going to do and what their plan is for the whole ecosystem. None of that's there. They don't talk about themselves. They don't talk about anything else other than spinning up miners, which doesn't solve the problem. And it certainly doesn't solve the core of what you're trying to do because you veered away from the core of what you started as. Well, Cult is the same thing because Cult started, and I heard the guy's name's Artorias. I heard one of his videos, and he said, we're here to try to create these projects that help other token projects so that we're all working together. Okay, sounds good. But then in another breath, I go and I see this is on Bleez's video, but elsewhere too, I hear people say, nope, we're just here to make money. You just basically take your profits out like any other token. Well, wait a minute. They can't be the same thing. They can't be the same thing. Either we're there to make a difference in somebody's lives, or we're here to just make a bunch of money. The messaging currently is nothing about profit. In fact, I've heard other people say, this isn't about profit. I heard somebody straight say, it's not an investment. The messaging is inconsistent. When you have inconsistent messaging, you're not going to appeal outside the bubble, which is what I said. At no point did I say it's a scam. I said your messaging sucks, your marketing sucks, your website sucks, which is going to make you struggle. Time will tell because they're still early. But the point is, if you look at Libero, where I said that their websites are crap, and as a result, people's sentiment is harmed, I would argue they have not gotten any significant level of rise back because it all still sucks. It's with the car salesman, I said it's going to have the unreasonable pumps and it's going to crap and it's going to never recover again, or it's going to struggle to do so. Everything is the truth. It's just people are in hopium mode and they're trying to keep their bag safe. And I understand that. All I've ever asked is a reality check. The reality is no. There's the only projects that are truly successful right now are the core tokens, Bitcoin, Ethereum, BNB, etc. And that's how it's going to be for right now because that's where the money comes back, because the vast majority are going to those. That's where the profit's made. Anybody who is looking at the graph should be seeing this. I am simply not on the board of jumping into a meme, paying some developer who ultimately is paired to the same gas token I could have bought myself and made 10 times more money than. In my mind, that doesn't make any sense. For other people, maybe it does make sense. And I celebrate whatever decision they choose to make. I'm not telling you or anyone else what to do with your money. I'm telling you that when you look at Ethereum rocking 1,700 right now, when it went down as low as $980. And anybody that had bought in at that base when I said it probably is not going to go too much lower than 1,000, anybody that listened to me is sitting on major profit, more profit than you could have made on those garbage tokens with less investment. And people don't listen. That's cool. I'm going to keep sending the message until at some point it clicks to people and they get tired of giving money to some developer only to see it not go anywhere. If that's what you're in, hey, I celebrate you. I respect you. I respect your right to roll the dice and see where it goes. I'm telling you straight, we are past the era of the shibs making an instant millionaire off whatever. That's not going to happen again. And if tokens are inconsistent with their messaging and their marketing sucks, they're not going to go anywhere. If you still believe and you want that hopium, great. If it's part of a diverse portfolio, great. If it's part of multiple projects, great. Never, ever, ever have told anybody not to buy into a project. I can recommend, but I'll never tell somebody not to do because everybody's motivations are different. What I will do, though, is always point back. The gas tokens can never steer you wrong. The same is true today. They can never steer you wrong. They are currently pumping very nicely, and anybody who bought in at the right price points made some pretty good tidy profit. And you didn't have to care about the hopium. You didn't have to care about a docs dev. You didn't have to care about lock liquidity. You didn't have to care about DAO. You didn't have to care about anything. Even all the way to Ethereum Classic, which is pumping 3x, I believe it went. And it's only pumping arguably because of the name Ethereum and the work that Ethereum is doing. So they're banking off the back of Ethereum, and it's likely not going to sustain. The point is, anybody that bought into Ethereum or sat on Ethereum Classic is making major amounts of money. So we all have to decide, are we here to make money or are we here to feel good? Because sometimes you can't have both. If you're here to make money, the core tokens can never steer you wrong. And that's evidence. We're seeing it firsthand. You can continue paying other projects, whether in addition to or in lieu of, that's great. I'm only I've ever said, in this market right now, I think the gas tokens are the key if we are going after money, because they can never steer you wrong. They can't. And worst, they can give you more of the gas that you need to buy into whatever other project if you do want to buy into something else, because right now it's at a discount. And I think it's an illness. I think it's like gambling illness. People are feeling like they have to FOMO off of something or some new project shows up. I just saw some garbage show up, and yeah, it has that initial pump and dump, same thing. Everything has the same pump and dump, pump and dump, pump and dump. And everybody FOMOs in to try to get off that pump, not realizing they might have only made like $200. Whereas if they bought in Ethereum, they doubled what they bought in if they bought one. If that's what people want to do, great. It doesn't make sense to me because it's like the Matrix. I'm unplugged from that garbage. I'm looking at what's going to give me the most bang and is most likely not to rip me the heck off. It's going to be the gas tokens. That's where I sit anyway. So hopefully, regardless, if you have a portfolio of 1, 2, 10, 50, whatever cryptos that you are sitting on or watching or buying or selling, whatever, hopefully you are making money off of the pumps that are happening. Just realize that with the pumps you see with the gas tokens, not every one of these meme tokens is actually climbing with it. And that's because they haven't fixed their fundamentals. And if they haven't fixed their fundamentals, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, all you've done is hand your money to somebody who's sitting it into a liquidity pool that's losing value because their token doesn't have value. Okay, we can talk about burns. Burns are not going to significantly make a dent, as we've seen with many projects. There was a video with, I believe it was Awesome Austin, and he was talking about terrarium. And in one breath, he says, yep, they're going to do this burn. It's going to drop 3 zeros, deep, deep, deep. And then in the next breath, he said, well, the burn's not going to make that much difference. Do you know what that is? That's hopium, right? That's hopium. That's saying burn, burn. We're going to get the burn, 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 burn. The burn's the word. And it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. Because at the end of the day, terrarium will succeed or fail based on its utility and what it really does that's adding a value, not just based on burn. Anybody can burn. ETH fan burn. It burns. It doesn't mean anything. One of my fave 5, parabolic. It burns. Problem is there's no volume. So what good is it? Nothing. Burn doesn't mean anything on its face. Everything connects together. Everything ties together. And at the end of the day, it all comes back to the gas tokens and what they're doing. You can do all the mechanics. And that's the thing. I think many of them have burned out. no pun intended. They've run out of gimmicks. They've run out of things to rush to. And so then they go to the extreme, which is what Libero did, of just, okay, minor. We'll just do a minor on the liquidity and a minor on the BNB and a minor on the BUSD and then call it, and it is what it is. They don't really have any strategy for how to handle things to come out of the bear market. And that's what you're seeing. Okay, well, if that's what they want to do, support them. No problem. Now, where do we go next? Well, to me, in my opinion, everything looks good to me for Bitcoin for sure. It had some dips, but everything looks good as a long-term vision. Everything looks good. I feel a lot more better about Ethereum. And that's bizarre because usually they kind of run lockstep in, ups and ups and downs. But I feel really good about Ethereum. I feel really good about BNB. I feel really good about all of the rest of them. I certainly feel good about Bitcoin, but yeah, I definitely like BNB. Absolutely. So I'm still one of those on the gas tokens and not any of the memes right now. None of them impress me hardly at all. If they're fundamental tokens, Ariva, right, Everrise, those, I'm 100% on those, but they're rare. And what we've seen is that pretty much everything's been flushed out. We've seen that, like Quail, the garbage ones have been flushed out and they're no longer in play, no longer working as hard as they were. And where we go next, I was on August, pretty much Q3, August, as where I thought things would get back up. We're close. We're not quite fully there, but we're close. And that makes me happy, at least. I don't know if anybody else out there is feeling good. I would say we're certainly in a better situation than we used to be. And I think that we have to thank everybody that's buying into the gas tokens, which are going to be the institutional people. They're going to be the big, rich people that want to stay rich. They're buying into the gas tokens. They're not buying into the garbage. They're buying the gas tokens. So, and then, geez, ICP. And ICP crapped. ICP had this huge crap, and it's rebounding very nicely. Sandbox crapped huge. Near Protocol didn't crap that much, but it crapped. Cosmos crapped, but not that much. Monero hasn't crapped that much. Monero's one, I had a follower, and they asked about Monero because apparently they had it in their wallet, and I said that, you pretty much have to go all in with the ecosystem. That's its flaw. And it's not really truly decent, and I'm going to get to that in a second. Because you're still, if you want to get cash out of it, you still have to go to an exchange. Once you go to an exchange, you're no longer decent. And that's the trap. That's the flaw in what we tout as decent or DeFi. It's not truly, because at the end of the day, to get money out, if you don't care about getting money out, it's fine. But if you care about getting money out of it, and you have to go to an exchange, a centralized exchange. Once you centralize, you can no longer be decent. So then I had another person who was talking about Cult DAO, and this is Artorias, actually. Artorias, he said, our vision is to be decentralized and DeFi and push DeFi, and we want to get away from the dependencies on banks and all this other stuff. And yet everybody's hype point in the community was getting listed on KuCoin. The moment you list on KuCoin, you're no longer decent because you went to a centralized exchange, but you have to get cash out. Well, we know what that's all about. So I actually respect something like Monero much more, except for the fact that they went to exchanges at some point. But Monero at least tries to avoid exchanges. They went to like a really small, I forget which one it is. I don't know if it's CoinTiger, one of the small ones, to try to not get too bad. But the moment you go to a centralized exchange, you're talking about you're no longer decent. That's not true, not going to be true. If you don't care, I support you. That rhymes. So I think everything's looking good on the core tokens, at least. I'm not going to talk about the rest of them, but on the core tokens, absolutely. I'm liking what I see. And I think we're in a good spot going forward. Then this whole business of Voyager, right? And I don't know if anybody saw the news, but then Voyager, they apparently, I didn't see this, but apparently they were positioning that they were, all your funds with us are FDIC insured. And for those outside the United States, FDIC insurance applies to any traditional banking account that says you are insured against up to a certain level of loss should the bank become insolvent or something happen, right? Well, apparently Voyager had claimed that anybody who had their money deposited there, their funds were going to be safe, which wasn't true because FDIC insurance applies to the account, not to the money. This is hard for people to understand, but The bank actually came out, put a statement, and in summary, what this says is it says, we have an account for these guys. All it holds is the US dollar. It doesn't hold crypto, it's holding the dollar. Voyager is who's saying this crypto is held for this person and it equals this much fiat. However, that person, that whoever's money that is not a customer of the bank. Thus, they don't receive any FDIC insurance coverage. Additional, the money that's there, which is just a pool, is covered by the FDIC insurance up to the 250,000 limit. Well, they were holding millions, or if not billions, I think it was millions of dollars in this account. So, number one, there wasn't enough insurance to have covered this. Number two, it only covers the US dollar because that's what's in the account. Three, cryptocurrency is not directly tied to fiat in what the bank sees. The bank doesn't know crypto. So there's a custodianship that Voyager had. Custodianship, and this goes to Coinbase's situation recently. When you are in custody of the cryptocurrency assets, there's no fiat to this. The exchange is making the correlation between the cryptocurrency and the fiat. So a bank where the fiat is held doesn't know anything about what cryptocurrency is or isn't in play. They have nothing to do with it. So part of the problem with Voyager is if it's true that they stated that, yes, your funds are FDIC insured, that was a flat lie on its face because you are not a customer of the bank. Your money is only crypto in form of what you gave Voyager. So you are not protected by anything at all. This is normal, right? So the bank had to put a statement to just straight say, no, we don't have anything for you. We ain't got no, we never had it. We don't have it. We wouldn't have it. This applies to every exchange, every single one of them. And I'll say this because I don't know what exchanges anybody has. Any exchange that claims that you have FDIC insurance is lying to you. You don't. It's not possible because FDIC insurance applies to the owner of the bank account. And the bank account is not directly a cryptocurrency account. It's just US dollars in the United States or whatever fiat in whatever other country. Unless a bank has specifically said this is an account that holds cryptocurrency, and even then FDIC insurance would not apply because FDIC insurance is for fiat deposit, specifically US dollar. No exchange can give you any sort of FDIC insurance. They can give you a separate insurance. There's other companies out there that do insurance type products to help insure funds that are deposited, whether they be cryptocurrency or not. That's a thing, simply that it's not FDIC. It's a lie, and anybody that says so is straight lying to you. So just be careful. And most importantly, and I think this is what's lost on a lot of these that keep talking about decentralized and DeFi, not your keys, not your coins. And if they're not your coins, is there really a loss? Potentially. Depends on what you paid to get those coins. If you didn't pay anything to get the coins, you didn't lose anything because you paid nothing to get the coins. So I'll talk about the triad here in a second as I wrap up, but just understand, the moment you bring an exchange into play in this business, you are no longer insured or protected because you are subject to whatever terms that exchange has for your cryptocurrency. And that's whatever they feel like it to be. They can tell you, nope, screw you, I'm not going to pay you anything if we go bankrupt. That happened actually recently with Coinbase. We go bankrupt, you lose your money. Deep. That's their right. It's in their terms. You agree to those terms, and that's fine because at the end of the day, I think it's an education opportunity. We need to educate people to understand not your keys, not your coins. Don't leave your money in an exchange because it's not going to do you any good. Your exchange should simply be for exchange, simple transactional things. Get it in, do what you need to do to swap a thing and get it out. Get it in your own wallet so that you are somewhat protected. Now, I say somewhat protected because if it's not one of the core gas tokens that I was calling out before, you still are at risk because any token that's not one of the core tokens, where it's not renounced or it's not restricted in some way to running functions, there are abilities to basically destroy the tokens in your wallet. You may not have known that, but it is certainly possible. It's called self-destruct. It's part of Solidity, where they can literally self-destruct, and what it does is it'll destroy all tokens around the project, including the ones in your wallet. So you might be thinking, well, then how do I stay safe? In my opinion, you stay safe by focusing today on the core tokens as your fundamental. and not get too triggered off the FOMO for whatever meme garbage that's out there, because especially if they refuse to renounce and they refuse to do anything that helps protect you as an investor. And proxy contracts are another thing that are risky. There's all these risky things where we should not default trust. We should default distrust until trust is proven. Why? Because we already know anything can happen, even if it's not malicious. Somebody get hit by a train, crash in a plane. There was a story about the guy, and he had $10 million he had custody of, and then he suddenly died because of a medical illness, and that money got locked up because nobody had the keys. Anything can happen, and as a result, it's important you take whatever steps are necessary for you to protect yourself. Keep yourself safe. That's all. I'm not suggesting that you change to anything specifically I'm calling out. I'm saying keep yourself safe. Be smart about it. Anything can happen. Don't just blindly trust any dev. If your money's put in, don't just blindly trust them, because all you're doing is setting yourself up for a bad outcome situation later on in life. Something to think about. You are free to ignore Leicester at your leisure. I support you for ignoring that. I'm simply sharing what I see based on this business here and what I foresee happening in the future. Now, of course, turns out if I'm right, hopefully later you come back, give my credit for calling it like I did, as you know, with the gas tokens and the price movements and the profitability of those tokens over some of the memes and some of the other memes that I've called out, many of them that didn't craft as I expected they might do, like stacked finance as an example. Just come back and give my credit. That's all. That's all I ever ask. Right? So real quick on Ethereum Classic. Ethereum Classic, the Uniswap token, and then Polygon, Matic. So obviously the Uniswap token is key because Uniswap is the core for Ethereum. The Polygon one, of course, it's a layer, so that's obvious. Ethereum Classic, though, starts jumping crazy. If you heard my coverage on Luna and Luna Shiny and Luna Classic, I said that that whole fiasco is very similar to what happened with Ethereum and Ethereum Classic when Ethereum forked, thus creating Ethereum Classic. And I said that Ethereum Classic did get some level of success compared to where it was, certainly, but it didn't get anywhere close to where main Ethereum ended up going. We're now seeing that pumps are happening with Ethereum Classic, and largely this is because of what we're seeing with Ethereum. Ethereum has a lot of chatter in the news and everything else about the merging and everything moving to proof of stake and all this. And unfortunately, people see this Ethereum Classic has a lower price. So I'm just going to get into it. It's kind of Ethereum. It's got Ethereum in the name. Let me just go ahead and do that. If they want to do that, great. I don't think it's sustained. I don't think it's going to last a long time. It's not to say that it's a terrible project. It's not. It's just that the problem with Ethereum Classic, I think, is that Ethereum Classic has no real, it doesn't have very much support behind it other than the community and existing holder count people. I'm not saying it's going to crap or die or no. I'm saying that I think its pump is temporary and not going to last the full throttle. With Polygon, it's a little bit different. Polygon is making changes to try to fix gas. One thing we saw with that garbage sunflower game a while ago is that gas started to creep up quite a bit with it. And they saw that, hey, there was a lot of things going on under the hood that weren't really built for the long haul. They were trying to partner with mainstream companies. And to do that, they need to make sure that their blockchain actually works as efficiently as it can. Mind you, it's still subject to the rules of Ethereum at the end of the day. And so they had some work to do, and they released a lot of stuff to try to get to that point to make it more viable to these companies. So their pump is coming not just because of Ethereum, because that's part of it, but also because of the work they're doing to try to get the fees in control, get performance in control, make it to where it's not going to crap out again. There's a lot of things that they're actively working on, I think are great things to make it more viable as a blockchain project. Uniswap's a little bit different though. I've never had the Uniswap token. I understand why it exists. I think it's stupid, just like with the 1-inch token and the cake. And I've never supported those. Sushi, I don't support them. I understand. Provide liquidity, get the token, or staking reward. I got you. I don't support them for the same reason. I feel like if you're going to go into something, you go into the gas tokens. The gas tokens can never steer you wrong, in my opinion. So they've changed the DAO, they did a vote, and they're changing the fee structure, and they're going to be increasing the amount of trading fees to anybody who holds the Uniswap token. Now, this is great for anybody who's in the token because there was no other value to holding the Uniswap token. It didn't do anything other than just be a kind of a token that had some singular value in price. So getting rewards puts it on parity now, specifically the one I know is Sushi token. I don't know it's going to make a significant difference because Sushi token never really got to a significant peak either, and it had all these rewards. And then I think BuySwap has its own liquidity pair token that it offers you, and then it gets other tokens to as a reimbursement to gas and all these gimmicks that are starting to get more traction. They're more appealing to people. So Uniswap's coming up from behind. So they're pumping mostly because they're doing something as they're like the primary for Ethereum, but yet they never really did anything to benefit Ethereum trading, even though they're like the go-to. And so other swaps have come up and they're trying to take this over. Then you get other ones like Everswap, right? That you can do certain trades and it's faster. It does the auto slippage, all these things that some of these other ones are coming from behind. So summary of this is that all of these are benefiting from Ethereum's chatter and what they're doing. Doesn't mean they're not going to sustain, but I don't think they're going to sustain. I certainly don't think Ethereum Classic is going to sustain. I think it's going to die off. However, if you're going to consider long term, right? The one thing about the Ethereum shift is that it's as going to proof of stake, it's going to change mining, right? So with Ethereum Classic, the whole reason that Ethereum Classic maintained and said it was going to be a thing is that they wanted to keep proof of work because they believe proof of work is more secure. So this might end up in a situation of like Luna Classic of we still believe in this and we think it's going to be the future and it's going to be sustainable and it's worth backing. Maybe it is. I'm not sold myself. However, just know as the shift happens, when Ethereum does get to full proof of stake, it means that for the purposes of mining, there's a lot of different tokens you can mine, but for the purposes of mining, Ethereum Classic then becomes, with ETC hash, becomes kind of a go-to for existing mining equipment for proof of work. It means you can reuse what you already have. This might be appealing to certain people. And I know I've mined on ETC hash and I've in some cases preferred it, especially for lesser powered machines. So that could be a play that could play in. I don't know that. I'm saying it's unlikely, but it certainly could do. And we'll have to wait and see for Ethereum to freaking get its act together whenever it chooses to and see where that all goes. But that's all I got here for you today. Hopefully that's been informational, helpful, and beneficial. And I'm going to check in now on our various points, see if I have any questions that I didn't answer. I don't believe I do, but I'll check in anyway. Let's see. And it looks like a no. So, all right, cool. Looks like a no. Cool. Good enough. I'm going to go ahead and polish this up, get it all registered into YouTube land, which has been behaving now that now that I'm working around it. And I'll be back again next weekend at the same bat time, same bat channel, maybe. We are adjusting time segments for different audiences to make sure they can participate live. Regardless, you'll always be able to check it in after the fact. Thank you for joining. If you did join, appreciate having you here. Appreciate here if you're in after the fact. Regardless, I have a call to action, open call to action. If you think of something, questions, suggestions, feedback, comments, anything at all, leave it in the comments below. Just understand that because of spam, the moderator is pretty aggressive because of spam, which is unfortunately has now infected pretty much everybody's channel. Mine is cleaner than everybody else just because, I'm a PIMP, but just know I am seeing your comments and I will accordingly respond. If I see that they are I can respond to them and I'll get you answers if it's something that I did not capture during the live.